The next question. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Dr. Zakir Naik. My name is Safa Siraj. I am a senior in high school and will graduate soon. I live in New York City, the United States of America. In America, it is very easy to fall into major sins. The fitna here is very high and I cannot practice Islam as much as I want to. For example, interest is everywhere. If I want to open even a bank account, I will have to pay interest. There are many more major sins that are being propagated here. My question is, how can I make hijrah to Malaysia alone as a young American woman? I plan to be a gynecologist, inshallah. Please give me some tips. Jazakallah khair. The sister Safa Siraj, she lives in America and she agrees that the situation and the atmosphere is not very compatible to the teachings of Islam, and there are many major sins that are difficult to stay away from, the sins of riba, of fitna, of obscenity, etc. And she wants to migrate to Malaysia. She wants tips how to do it. Maybe she has heard my earlier answer that today in this age, according to me, the best of the worst or the best available country for a Muslim to live, according to me, it is Malaysia. I will not give the details which I have given in my earlier answers, but according to me, one of the best countries where a Muslim can live today, that can follow his deen and follow and be a good practicing Muslim, etc., and yet have a modern life, it is Malaysia. So basic question was that how can she, as a young alone American woman, migrate and live in America? Since you said that you have just close to finishing your high school and you want to be a gynecologist and you're young, the best way I could say is that you should marry a Malaysian, because to get the citizenship of Malaysia is extremely difficult. Even to get the permanent residency, the PR of Malaysia, is extremely difficult, unless if Allah wills then you have very good contacts. That's a different situation. But generally, it is extremely difficult. Unlike many of the Western countries where you spend a few years, you can get easily a PR, you can get a citizenship. In Malaysia, even if you spend 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the chances are negligible. Coming back to your question. So the best option that I can think is that since you're of a marriageable age, my best suggestion would be that you marry a Malaysian who is a practicing true Muslim. And I believe that an average Malaysian is a better practicing Muslim than an average non-Malaysian. I'm not talking about the Arabs. I'm not talking about the Gulf countries. They're on a different level. But talking about the Muslims from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or the other parts of the world. On an average Malaysian Muslim is a better practicing Muslim than an average Muslim in India or an average Muslim from Pakistan or from Bangladesh. Because, alhamdulillah, the deen is inculcated in them right from the childhood. But of course, you have good apples and bad apples. Some of them are very bad, some of them are good. But on average, they are more practicing as compared to the Muslims from other parts of the world, not counting the Gulf country and the Arabs. The next solution is, if you cannot get a good spouse who's a Malaysian, the next option is that you can marry a good practicing Muslim who has a permanent residency of Malaysia. There are a few 100,000 who have permanent residency of Malaysia. And if you can find a good practicing Muslim, then also it's quite good, because if you marry a PR, for you to stay here is very easy. Otherwise, immigration is the most difficult in Malaysia. To get a tourist visa is very easy, but to get a residency visa is very difficult. Get a citizenship is extremely difficult. Get a PR is very difficult. Even to get a work permit is difficult. There are various rules and regulations. So this option is better. If you can marry a person who has a permanent residency, then but naturally you directly get a spouse visa. And the children that are born, if you give birth to a children in Malaysia, then they get a citizenship. If you marry a Malaysian also, they get citizenship. But if you marry a PR and if you give birth in Malaysia, then all your children get Malaysian citizenship. The third best option that I can think of is that since you want to become a gynecologist, you can do your medical studies in Malaysia. Malaysia has very good educational institutions, several, many, where they have for the undergraduates, they have for the graduates, they have for the postgraduates, they have for the PhD. There are plenty of them. So, since you want to become a gynecologist, best would be to do your medical studies from Malaysia, and getting a visa for a student is very easy and very cheap. So the next option that I can think of is that you should do your medical studies in Malaysia. The fourth option can be that you can also marry a person who has a work permit, but this work permit is not for long since you want to settle in Malaysia. If you marry a Malaysian citizenship, if you marry a person who has a Malaysian citizenship, it is the best. Next option would be a person who has a permanent residency, so that it's very easy. If you marry someone who has a work permit, then till his work visa is valid maybe for 1 year, for 2 years or 3 years, it's limited. You can renew it, but everything is not that easy in Malaysia. And then you want to come here, you can find a job here, but getting a job here is difficult because there are umpteen number of doctors, both medical doctors and PhD doctors. Here you find many medical doctors and many people who have passed PhD. There are so many umpteen number of universities. So every year there are hundreds of people who are passing and they are becoming PhD. So every time you find a person, very often that in front of his name is the name doctor, then you have to find whether he's a medical doctor or a PhD. So getting a job here would be difficult, but these are the options that I can think of. Getting a tourist visa is very easy. If you're coming from America, and you'll be allowed for, I think, 6 months depending upon the nationality. Some nationality allowed for 1 month, like from India it is 1 month. If you come from some countries like Yemen, etc., you're allowed for 3 months. If you come from countries like UK or USA, if you have a nationality and you are a UK citizen or American citizen, you can come here for 6 months, but you cannot stay for longer than 6 months. You have to go out and come back, and it will be difficult for you to settle here. So these are the best 5 options that I could think of if you want to settle here in Malaysia. Hope that answers the question. One more thing I forgot, that the 6th option can be is that you can apply for MM2H. Malaysia, my second home. And MM2H earlier was very easy, now it has become difficult. Previously, the rules and regulation for MM2H was that you have to invest 300,000 ringgit. That is maybe somewhere close to about $75,000 or less than that. And you put in the bank. After 1 year, you can remove half the money. And you have to prove that you're earning 10,000 ringgit. Again, that's about $2,250 a month. And you can apply, and within 2 or 3 months, you used to get the MM2H. MM2H means Malaysia, my second home. And you get a 10 years visa. You can do everything except work. You can settle with a family. It's mainly meant for people retired or want to make Malaysia the second home. This was the easiest way to get the long-term visa in Malaysia. It is very economical. You just invest the money, you can put in an Islamic bank, and after 1 year remove half the amount, and the remaining half stays for 9 months. Recently, last year, they have changed the rule and they've increased the amount of the MM2H, Malaysia my second home, and they're called the VIP visa. Now you have to invest 1 million ringgit, which is about $225,000. And after 1 year, you can remove half, and the balance has to stay. It is for 5 years, again renewable for 5 years. It has become more difficult, but the advantage here is with this new money, or if you are married, you put your children in the government in Sabah Sarawak, then too you need for 15 days there, and the balance part of there you can stay any part of Malaysia. So this was a very good option earlier. Now it has become a little bit expensive, the MM2H visa, but yet if you have the funds, you can utilize this last option, which is for a long term. You get initially used to get for 10 years renewable 10 years, now it is 5 years renewable every 5 years. Hope that answers the question.